All right. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Miranda Joyner. I want to welcome you out to Beam Paths monthly Tech Talks. And this is actually the last Tech Talk for the year of 2024. It's been an amazing year with some amazing people in the tech industry from the great state of Mississippi and abroad. I'm really excited to be closing out this particular Tech Talk with someone that is here locally connected to us in the state and the city. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this dialogue and conversation. If you are not connected to the Beam Path by social and you found this link by some other way, please join the Beam Path here locally in Jackson, Mississippi by way of their social media at the Beam Path, by their website, thebeampath.org, and stay connected to the great things they have going on at the barn, the Bean Barn, and the Makerspace. If you don't know what those things are, I'll tell you about them at the end of this talk. Today, we're having an amazing conversation with about DIY law, leveraging tech to navigate the legal system. And I'm really excited about our speaker today, Representative Lawrence Blackmon. But again, my name is Miranda Joyner. I am the CEO and co-founder of Succeed and Elevate. And Succeed and Elevate is a nonprofit organization that is committed to helping small business owners and creatives to manage their abs, what we like to call, which is anxiety, burnout, and stress when it comes to their success in their business. We like to make it seamless and we create community around that. So I'm really excited to be here. Without further ado, let's get into this conversation. So I would love for you, first of all, Mr. Blackmon, how are you this morning? Let's talk about that.
How are you doing, Miranda?
I'm wonderful, but how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you all for having me. This is the last tech talk of the year, so let's make it good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, considering that my organization in particular is all about managing stress, burnout, and anxiety, and creating community where people feel safe, seen, and supported. I know a minute ago we're going to get into a lot of the stuff that you're doing that probably undoubtedly evokes stress at times, can be anxious,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to running a business, being in any leg of politics, especially in this climate that we're in now. I can imagine there are all types of stressors, exterior stressors that are causing you. But I would love to start this conversation before we get deep into the tech talk. We're talking about what do you do to alleviate stress as you're managing all the things that we're about to get into?
So, I was a cowboy in my former life. I grew up at the Pineywood School. I worked on the farm there for a long time. I got into showing livestock at the state fair and the Dixie National and all that kind of stuff. And so, I'm really a cowboy at heart. And when I'm not in the boardroom or in the courtroom or at the state house, I like to spend my time outdoors, fishing, tending to the cattle, and just being an outdoorsman, hiking and things like that. So, nature brings me a sense of peace and a sense of calm when I need to take a break and get away from some of the chaos. But
No,
also, I kind of thrive in the chaos as well. So, I find a bit of stress relief in getting things off of my checklist as well. There's no relief to anxiety like getting that thing that's making you anxious out of the way.
absolutely. I love a good controlled chaos. I'm the same way. For some people, we can thrive in it because we have those management and that brain capacity to control those things. So that is one of my spaces where I thrive as well. I love that you said getting outdoors and in nature because in a world where we're so ingrained in technology, connected to these devices, connected to things that help our lives to function better, we forget to get back to the basis to give our bodies that balance and what they need. So I love that you said that. Speaking of what you used to do in your former life, which is probably still really ingrained in your present life, can you tell us a little bit about your background really recently, like where you grew up and where you're from?
I am a son of Mississippi. Even more specifically, I am a son of Canton, Mississippi. I was born in Canton. I grew up in Canton. Spent a little time living in Dallas, Texas, as well, with my mother when I was young. But I quickly returned to Mississippi in middle school, and I attended, like I said, the Pineywood School from seventh grade to 12th grade. For those of you out there who are not familiar with the Pineywood School, it is an African American boarding school, the oldest African American boarding school in the world, one of only a few remaining African American boarding schools that were founded over 100 years ago at a time when Black people were really having a hard time finding quality education where they were. These Black boarding schools were popping up over the nation and becoming places where Black folks could send their children to get a quality education when we couldn't get one elsewhere. And Piney Woods has stood the test of time and is still around. So I grew up there. That gave me a really good head start. They gave me the confidence that I was really having a hard time finding in the Dallas public school system where I was up until that time. And they helped me to identify my strengths that have uh, brought me this far, right? And so from Piney Woods, I went to Howard University. If you know anything about Howard, that's going to surround you with some of the brightest Black people in the world, some of the most beautiful Black people in the world. And so that did wonders just for me being able to imagine what is possible and being able to see what's possible and being able to envision myself in certain spaces. And from there, I knew I wanted to be an attorney. And so I've been on a journey ever since then to where I am now, being an attorney and also being a tech founder. I spent some time in California with my first tech venture, and I'm going to use that loosely. But I was in California running around for a while trying to raise money for a video game startup that was over 10 years ago. But all of that has come together now um, to help me to thrive in this space that I'm in now as a tech founder and as a legislator that has an agenda that is heavily tech focused and on how tech can make our communities better and make our people better.
Nice. Now I love that. Now, so you have such a unique position in being in both as being an attorney and a tech company founder. Can you talk to me a little bit about what motivated you to venture into this tech space, and then also a little bit about how your legal background has influenced that work that you do in technology?
Okay, so legalese is a marriage of several life experiences of mine. Okay, for one, and I shared this about a week ago during my demo day presentation with Techstars, which we'll touch on later. But when I was in undergrad at Howard, I had the unfortunate experience of being arrested and charged with a misdemeanor, right? And the charge was later dismissed, but I didn't know that it was still a part of my record. Just the fact that I had been arrested at all was still a part of my record. And so I was applying to law school, and if you know anything about professional school and applying to professional schools, they want to know everything that you've ever done your whole life. Give us every address you've ever lived at, any encounter that you've ever had with police. And so, I had to talk about this on my law school application, and that gave me a great sense of anxiety, about whether I would even be able to be accepted into law school with this on my record. And so I had to get an expungement, right? And I had to call around to law firms in Washington, D.C., and they were giving me these out of the sky prices, right, for expungement. I paid it, put that behind me, went to law school, and I had a vision in law school for a business that could help people to understand the law better, right? Because when I was in law school, I quickly came to the realization that you know the law, which impacts all of us all the time, always surrounded by something that is rooted in the law or relevant to the law. And it's written in this code that is just very difficult for everyday people to understand. And if we could just make it, a little more simple, right? Make this information more accessible, then that would go a long way to us having a more just society, I thought, right? I didn't make a move on that immediately, right? Fast forward, I'm practicing, I'm in Canton, and one of the things that would constantly come across my desk were people that were requesting record clearing services. And I said, wow, I can relate to that because I once had to have an expungement, right? And at the same time, I was in touch with organizations like the ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center, Mississippi Center for Justice, and I would participate in their weekend expungement clinics where they would offer this as a free service to the community. And every time the response from the community would just be so overwhelming with people who needed this service. And I was like, this is bigger than even I initially thought. right?
Mm,
And so, I got with one of my friends who is now my co-founder, Roger Roman. I explained the problem to him. I asked him, because he was already in the tech space, was there any way that we could build something that would allow us to process these faster, right? That would essentially allow people to determine their eligibility without even needing to see an attorney at all, right? Could they get onto the computer, put in their information, and then find out whether or not they're eligible to have their record cleared? Just doing that would help out a lot. He whipped up a prototype. We started using it, and legalese really took off from there.
nice. Well, it's so interesting because most entrepreneurial ventures and journeys are based on our own lived experience, either a lack of something, or something that we had in abundance that we want to share with people in the world, right? That's what I've found over the years. And so it's really interesting to listen to that series of events that led you to this space. And sometimes it's unfortunate events. And it seems like most entrepreneurial situations are birthed out of stressful situations or, extreme
Right.
situations.
You put someone who is a problem solver, in a stressful situation, or
Yeah,
expose them to stressful situations. A true problem solver is going to figure out something to do about it. So that
absolutely.
makes sense.
Absolutely. So can you do me a favor for those that might be watching this and wanting to connect to it? Can you spell the name of the company that you all founded? And can you tell us a little bit more about the process about how if we wanted to connect to it, what that looks like for us to be to attach to it? Is there an app that we download? How do we, if we
Yeah.
feel like we need something
So
like that, how do we connect?
And so I was hoping, I tried to do a little advertising here, but I'm hoping that you can see it here. We're Legal Ease. We are Legal Ease, LEGALEASE, just how it sounds. Right now, you can visit us at legalease.law. And also, if you are someone who is looking for record clearing services, if you need an expungement, if you know someone who needs an expungement, you can visit legalease.law, or you can also visit us on our other platform, our flagship platform, expungement.ai. That's expungement.ai, as in artificial intelligence.
And how long has this business venture been happening for you all? And what would you say has been one of the more challenging parts of starting up this company?
So, that story that I just told is really not that old. That was about a year ago that we started using that MVP. And for those of you who don't know, in the startup space, your MVP is your minimal viable product, right? And so, minimally viable product. We started using that about a year ago. That was our prototype. We had to actually break our MVP because of the demand, right? And so we had it worked out on the front end, right? To where everything, the intake was smooth, but on the back end, there was still myself actually processing these expungements for people. That wasn't necessarily a scalable model. So we took down our MVP and we got to work on how we could remove that friction on the back end, and really create something that could scale nationwide.
Now you're saying MVP, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, our MVP, our minimally viable product.
Thank you. Because okay, thank you. For those of us who, I just want to speak for the regular people in the room who might not understand those terminology. So can you open up a little bit more what that is?
Yeah, so your minimally viable product, I'm country, and sometimes I blend my words together. But your
Okay.
minimally viable product is just the most basic version of what you're building that could give someone a better idea of what it is that you want to build down the road, right? And so it's something that you can do without having to have a lot of money from an investor, just something that you can put together to show people how what you're trying to build is going to work.
And for you guys, that product was,
So for us, that product is legalese, right? So for us, the product is legalese. What we do is build platforms that empower people to handle non-complex legal matters on their own. Essentially,
oh no, go ahead. I was just going to ask what the platform was. Is it an app or is it a website? Where
no,
specifically?
no. So we're web based, right? So we're web based. As long as you have access to a smartphone or a computer, you can access us.
Okay, very good. Go ahead. I think I cut you off in the middle of a thought.
No, no, you're fine. So for us, that was legalese. That was our MVP, like I said, that was just up on my law firm website at the time, and people could access that and use our static quiz to determine whether or not they were eligible to have their record cleared. And so from there, like I said, we needed to remove some of the friction on the back end, meaning to make it so that you didn't need the manual touch, right? You don't need people on the back end to actually process it because then you're just a law firm essentially, right? So we wanted to use technology to make the process totally in the hands of the user, right, of our customer. We want them to be able to come to our website, determine their eligibility, and then process their own record clearing paperwork, the same as what would happen with an attorney, all on our platform.
Nice. Now, as a legal space, when you hear that word, of course, there are a list of a number of reasons that people would need legal counsel. Are there any other services that you all offer on the site other than expungement or that particular service?
No, so right now, we are perfecting our technology around expungements, but we do have plans to expand into other areas of law to where people could help themselves with the help of technology, right? And so everything doesn't necessarily require a lawyer. Historically, lawyers have been essentially at our core, we're gatekeepers of information, right? We know where to look to find that answer to that pressing legal question, that pressing legal problem that you have, and that's what you pay us for. And up until this point, most of the technology that has been built around legal services has been with a focus on helping lawyers to get more work done with less effort, putting less time into it, but they're still charging the same arm and a leg, okay? And somebody at the bar is not going to like me for telling this, but we're still charging the same arm and a leg, although this technology has become available to us that allows us to get our work done much more efficiently than in the past. Uh, our thesis as a company is that we can take that same technology, tweak it a bit, and make it more consumer friendly and open the floodgates, really break down those barriers to information, break down those barriers to process, and allow people to take a more active work role in the justice system as it relates to themselves.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, absolutely. And thank you for pulling back that curtain like the Wizard of Oz to help us.
Yeah, I mean, that's what technology is about, that's when
Yeah,
technology is at its best, when we use it to break down barriers, to break down
absolutely.
walls, and to make things more equitable. And so
Absolutely.
that's what we're all about as a company.
Very good. Let's talk about your work as a representative. Can we talk about when did you shift into that space? And what has that been like, having, again, that dual mindset of being a legal person, but in politics, and how have you leveraged that?
So I just 20, this year, 2024 was my first year in the Mississippi House. I was elected last November, well,
Congratulations.
November 2023. So thank you. So I'm still kind of new to the role, but I've been marrying the two, right? So like I said, I'm a member of the technology committee. My brother Bradford is a senator. He is the co-chair of the technology committee on the Senate side, and so I have, done what I can do to make it so that there's not so much separation between the two, right? So, I'm in the tech space now, and I got into this space with this startup, like I said, about a year ago, and so both of these things kind of happened at the same time, and it is a balancing act, but I've been making it work.
What would you say are some of the, as being in this leadership position, what would you say are some of the impacts that you're hoping to make in this position? And can you give me specifically, like, do you have a specific title in case someone was going to look directly for you that you would have in that space?
Yeah. So when you say specific title, do you mean in the House of
Yes.
Representatives?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so I am representative. I am the representative for Mississippi's House District 57.
Mhm.
So I guess as far as titles, and I don't really care so much about the titles, but I would be Representative Blackmon for a title. Now, you said that your question is. Tell me that question again.
What is the impact that you're hoping to make being a part of the technology committee? Like when you get into that space, what are the changes and some of the things you're hoping to see?
Well,
Um,
before I was in the legislature, I was not as keenly aware of the fact that there are so many people in Mississippi in our rural communities who don't have access to broadband. And so, as a member of the technology committee, one of my biggest focuses has been making sure that we get broadband expansion in those rural areas so that everyone can have access to the internet and to high speed internet and to today's technologies. So that is one of the most important things for me as a legislator, and as a member of the technology committee, is broadband expansion. I think that there's so much untapped potential in Mississippi, especially in our rural communities. And in order for us to get that potential, the opportunity that it deserves, we're going to have to make sure that everyone has fair and equal access to the internet. So broadband expansion is one of my top priorities as a legislator and as a member of the technology committee. As a founder, I am keenly aware also of how important that is, right? And so I think that there are so many potential founders out here in Mississippi who could build great companies, who could solve big problems, but they're going to have access to high speed internet to do that. And so I am focused and dedicated to making sure that they have that.
Being in that space, technology, a lot of I think about just on a regular basis when it comes to just the people around me, not in the political space, people who run businesses, older people, kind of the older generations, the pushback that they get with technology and even incorporating that into their space. Even some of the millennials and below, just people who struggle with how to incorporate technology into their day-to-day lives. Do you see or have you seen since you've been in that position? Pushback when it comes to integrating technology or the innovation that is coming in? What is that environment like when it's being introduced and talked about amongst your colleagues?
I've been happy to find that Mississippi representatives, by and large, are open to technological advances. You see, in my district, AWS is building $1 billion project that is bringing thousands of jobs and millions of dollars into central Mississippi, and other technology companies have gotten a warm welcome from Mississippi and from our representatives and from our government in bringing in new technologies to Mississippi, new industries, technological industries to Mississippi. And so we're open. Mississippi is open for big tech. I think that was part of the governor's message last year, and some of his big reveals of some of the things that he had been working to bring to the state.
What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles in creating policies that both protect people and encourage them to grow at the same time?
Now, I'm sorry, there was a little bit of static in the end, but I think that you were asking me what do I think are the biggest hurdles to getting things passed? Is that what you said?
To creating policies that both protect people when it comes to the technology space and then also encouraging them to grow. Like, what hurdles do you see as far as like
I think that the biggest hurdle with new legislation is probably partisanship. So we are in a partisan political climate, and so sometimes that gets in the way of things that could really progress the people. For instance, one of the only bills that I introduced last year as a freshman, lawmaker, I was more interested in learning the process than I was in just throwing a bunch of bills out there, right? But one of the few things that I wanted to make sure that I focused on were second chances, right? That's big for me, not only as a company but as a personal philosophy. Because I share with you, I'm living on a second chance myself. So, I introduced a bill to make expungements automatic, what they call a clean slate bill, and it didn't even make it out of committee due to partisanship. And so that's a huge problem. We're able to solve it in the tech space a lot easier than we can solve it in the political space because there's so much red tape in the political space. Anytime you're trying to get anything new done, technologies are usually forward looking and forward thinking about how things can be done in the future. And sometimes it's just hard to get that past through the political process. So in this instance, I'm still going to provide as many second chances to as many people as I can. I'm going to use technology to do that as opposed to a political vehicle because in politics, sometimes things get caught up in the partisan red tape.
What would you say is the key then in with you saying all of that? What would you say is the key to getting policymakers and tech innovators to work together? And is there a role that we can play from the outside in to move that along?
Well, I think that for one, as a nation, we're seeing the marriage of politics and technology, almost like never before, right? And so I think that people who are knowledgeable in the technology space, people who are knowledgeable about emerging technologies, we have to be teachers. To our political leaders, right, and show them what is possible with advances in technology and why it makes sense for their constituencies, why it makes sense for Mississippi, why it makes sense for the nation, for them to embrace certain technological advances and not fight against them, right? I think that one of the bigger advantages that Donald Trump was able to get over the Democratic Party in this past election was his seeming embrace of new technologies, his embrace of cryptocurrencies and things like that, and his promise to be a friendlier president and have a friendlier administration to our big tech leaders. And I think that there was an opportunity for us to do that as a party, but we just missed that opportunity. But we need to have a serious discussion about that. I think about how we're going to be more tech friendly and be more open to technological advances. So yeah.
What would you say is the first step in that? When you think about
Oh, so the first step in that I said would be lobbying. Like I said, teaching. Being a teacher. People in the tech space who are knowledgeable have got to teach lawmakers. Why it makes sense for them to support these advances and support certain technologies and not fight against those.
and would you say that for people who have a concern that, because I think, in the technical space and with all the innovation that's happening, sometimes when law and creativity meet, one can kind of mute out the other. Like law can really, when laws come into play and when policies get into play, sometimes it can stifle creativity. What would you say to people who are concerned about that and moving forward, who are scared to like step into that space because they want to protect their creative space to be able to have the freedom to explore and have innovative inventions in the creative space?
Think that the more that innovators, the more that creators, the more that founders get involved in things like politics, the more that we're going to have a friendlier environment so that people don't have to be worried about the stifling of creativity and the stifling of advancement. We have got to, like I said, kind of wield our knowledge, right, and our influence as people in this space to break down some of that red tape and to break down some of those barriers and to find people who are friendly to our causes.
Mm, yeah, no, absolutely. I think Bean Path is again putting a good footprint in the city about positioning themselves as the go-to for tech, the go-to for how to incorporate tech into every day, from your health to creativity to the entrepreneurial space. And I think it's a good place to start to connect to companies like that. What would you do if you were looking for spaces like the Bean Path and other spaces? If you were on the other end, what advice would you give to people who are wanting to be more involved? Are there go to, maybe spaces or just in general? What advice would you give somebody who's trying to say, I want to make an impact, but I don't know where to start?
So, the best place to start is going to be on your iPhone. I would say, whatever industry that you're interested in, there are so many things that are happening right under your nose in that industry. If there is a certain type of business or company that you're looking to found, to start doing your research into that and find out what organizations are meeting and where you can find the conventions and the certain things that are happening in your space, and start going out and put yourself out there, meeting people and listening to their stories. Also, on YouTube, whatever industry you're looking to get into, you can find people on there who are talking about their experience and what's going on, what's happening now in that space, and just start from there. That's kind of where I started from, not only with legalese, but with my very first startup, Visionary Works, many years ago. We wanted to create, like I said, mobile games. Had no idea where to start or how to get that done, but I started looking up conventions and meetups and things like that, traveling to Los Angeles and just kind of jumped out there and put myself out there and started meeting people in that space. That didn't materialize into this big successful story as the way I envisioned, but I learned a lot about how to find people who are working in the space that I'm looking to work in, and how to connect with them, and how to find mentorship, seek mentorship out, and really get myself started.
Mm, very good. I'm gonna take a trip back into, I see we have some Q&A questions that I didn't see at first. I want to go back to a question that was from a little bit earlier when we first started, and then we can jump back into this conversation about where to get started and to pick
Okay.
it up. But it was a question about what is the best AI to use when filling out legal documents. I think that's a great question because a lot of day-to-day people, that's something that we run into quite often. What would you say in your experience is a better app AI tool for that?
So that's still an emerging technology in the legal space. Obviously, you have legalese working in the record clearing space, referring services in that space. In the business filing and business creation space, you have LegalZoom. In the end of life preparation state space, you have companies like Trust and Will, and so you have all of these different technology companies who are kind of working in different silos to make legal help more accessible and easier to navigate. So those are just three of them. It just really depends on what type of help that you're looking at, that you're looking for, and then you would find a company that's working in that space.
Absolutely. So another question from the Q&A is, with law school still catching up to technology and cyberspace, did you have an additional formal education when starting up Legal Ease?
Yeah, so like I said, I was a communications major at Howard University, but also when I finished my JD at Mississippi College, I also went on to George Washington University, and I got my LLM in alternative dispute resolution and complex litigation. And at our core, legal ease is a form of alternative dispute resolution, right? So, like I mentioned earlier, our thesis as a company, our mission as a company is to build platforms that allow people to handle non-complex legal matters on their own without an attorney. That is alternative dispute resolution. And so part of my perspective on this does come from my post JD education in that alternative dispute resolution space.
Very good. All right. So those are pretty much caught up the direct questions that we have here. Here's a
Okay, keep
question.
them coming.
Huh. They will, I'm sure. I'll encourage them. I don't think they need to be encouraged. I text the tech space, they're going to ask the questions. I just
That's
have
that's good.
notification. So thank you, Tamika, for bringing it to my attention that we had some Q&A questions there. I was really caught up in this dialogue and conversation. Speaking of the dialogue and what we're here for in this basis of how to leverage and navigate the legal system with technology, because a lot of our audience, again, like I said, it's from people who are really tech savvy to people who are curious about the tech space. It just ranges from one spectrum to the other. I'm curious to you, when somebody who's looking to utilize legal services more in their lives, and they want to know what are some of the tools and ways outside of legal ease that we could use to help leverage and navigate the legal space, what would be your recommendation to them? Like, if maybe somebody can't afford a lawyer, right? So it's like, I can't afford a lawyer. What do I do? I'm trying to remember that website, Rocket Lawyer or something like that, that used to like,
Rocket Lawyer is another one.
Yeah, that you used to could draft up like the legal documents. And every once in a while I would try to use that. But even in using that, I would still be extremely fearful about loopholes and things that I'm missing. So can you talk to me a little bit about maybe some tools that maybe the everyday person wouldn't know about, like some secret hidden tools that we could use to help us leverage some legal advice and counsel if we're out in this world needing it?
So, like I said, this is the technology for doing that, which is, I think that the best technology for doing that is artificial intelligence. Is relatively new in terms of its availability to the public, right? And even its availability to founders to build using AI tools is something that has really emerged in the last year and a half or so. So it's relatively new. There aren't a whole lot of them out there, but like I said, there are some companies that are solving in certain spaces. Like I said, legalese, we're in the second chance space. You have LegalZoom if you're looking to establish a company, and get your LLC, excuse me, your LLC or your 501(c)(3) or something like that. LegalZoom is a space uh, where you can get help in that space. You have Trust and Will, which is another technology company that is building consumer-facing legal tech. And so there are probably some other ones that I may not be aware of, but those are three that come to mind.
Nice. What would you say are some the role that you see technology playing in creating jobs and opportunities, especially in communities that have historically been underserved? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so like I said, in my district, in District 57, a lot of our jobs have been brought in by Amazon, which is one of the biggest technology companies in the world, and AWS, which is a subsidiary of Amazon, which is another one of the biggest companies in the world. And so I think that tech is getting a positive response from Mississippi. We're seeing a lot of economic development from the tech space in Mississippi, and with that, along with that comes jobs and economic development. And so I think that one of my biggest pushes as a legislator is going to be to continue to see investments from the tech space in Mississippi, which translates into jobs.
Mississippi has such a good potential to be a good hub for tech companies in the way that it's growing with startups, especially. I always tell people it's such a great place to start a business, to test out a business. The space is like for small business owners, it's really ideal.
Right.
It's not so much pressure, and then you have enough technology and people that you can test your products out on and grow and make mistakes without like extremely big consequences.
Mhm.
What would you say are some policies or initiatives that you think could help us to get to being being seen as a tech hub? Because I don't think a lot of people think about Mississippi and see us in that light.
Well, for one, like I said, making sure that everyone across Mississippi, no matter how rural the area they live in, has access to the internet, for one. But as leaders, we can create a tech-friendly and a founder-friendly environment by offering certain incentives for people to build their companies here in Mississippi and to take that chance and starting that business through rebates and tax deductions and things like that, and just creating a founder friendly environment using legislation and the tools that we have at our disposal, which are the purse strings. Most important.
What would you say are some of the trends that you've been seeing lately that you're most excited about when it comes to this space?
Well, I'm excited about AI. Like every other business owner who is knowledgeable about the opportunities that are presented by this technology. I'm excited about being able to reach more people, about being able to bring costs down by using artificial intelligence, but then shifting that money to other areas and helping to expand and grow businesses faster using that technology. And so I'm really excited about that.
Nice. So emerging technologies like AI and blockchain, these things tend to be moving quickly. What can you say that lawmakers can do to adapt to these changes while making sure that they stay protected as businesses?
Like I said, just crypto, you mentioned blockchain, but yeah, blockchain technology is another one that I'm really excited about. I invest heavily in the crypto space, and I have for a while. I should have done it when I first heard about it, but better late than never. But just creating laws that are friendly for that space, and that rejecting things that would stifle innovation, stifle creativity, stifle expansion in those spaces, and embracing policies that allow people to problem solve, to experiment, and to really build great and innovative companies that are embraced by our government.
And as far as protection, going into spaces like crypto, I think, I think when you said you should have invested in it earlier, what I heard was there was hesitation just because of maybe fear of, is this something I should invest in? And I think a lot of people have those concerns when moving into those particular spaces. What are some things that people can do up front? What did you do? Let's specifically you. What shifted for you when you were looking at crypto? And then what was the thing that you did that helped you to decide to invest in it in the way that you are now?
It's been a roller coaster, I'll be honest. You do not want to take the route that I took. So let me share it with you so that somebody can hopefully do a lot better than I did.
Yeah.
When I first heard of crypto was probably about 10 years ago. This was way before it had become as ubiquitous as it is now, or as way before it was a household topic, right? I was on a hike in Los Angeles, California, with a group of founders, and the way that this would work, they would do this every Saturday, but you were encouraged just to mix and mingle and talk with people and learn from everybody who was a part of this group that would go out and hike in California. And this guy um, was telling me about crypto and how this was going to disrupt the banking industry and all these kind of things. And I was like, I was very skeptical. Didn't pay a lot of attention to it. He was talking about Bitcoin back then. It was probably $100 back then. And so I just kind of brushed it off and said, yeah, kind of whatever, man. But fast forward, I kept hearing about it, right? And still, I wasn't ready to invest in it myself because people saying that they're going to take on the banking industry and disrupt the banking industry. And I'm like, I still wasn't a believer, right? But at the same time, having been turned on to it so early, I'm watching it as it is increasing in value, right? And so I'm like, it was $100. It won't go live. It was live at the 8, and still I wasn't comfortable with it. But as I watched it continue to grow and continue to progress, eventually I just said, you know what, I'm gonna jump in, and so I did. And it has gone well, right? It's not always gone well because anybody who invests in that space knows you have ups and downs, just like with any other market. And sometimes the lows in this space are very low, and then you may question how smart of an idea it was to put your money into it. But I have I've written out the bear markets, and so I'm confident that this will continue to be an industry that grows, and I'm in for the long haul.
Nice. Okay. Well, speaking of California, right? And that conversation for you that was pivotal in your decision making. It was something that you said it was a gathering and people would get together and do that. And I've spent, I think anytime that I visit Los Angeles, there's any city in the world, of course, is going to have a different energy, a different vibe, and they approach things like technology differently. And California is probably one of the more innovative spaces when it comes to startups and tech, clearly,
Yeah.
with a lot of the stuff that they do. What would you say is some of the things from your experience in being in California in the way that you were, and now being in Mississippi? Specifically, the question is, what are the things that you see happening in Cali that you experience happening in Cali, like gatherings like that, where you could have those conversations and be involved in things that might shift your perspective or give you knowledge that you see that was working and useful that we can start to incorporate here in a state like Mississippi to do more to help move this innovative leg along.
Yeah, fostering those conversations and fostering and creating spaces and environments for people who want to problem solve and people who want to get out there and be founders and build companies is very important. fireside chats, spaces like the Bean Path, and conversations like the ones that we're having are great starts. I think that what the Bean Path is doing and what they've built, the space that they've built in Mississippi, is a great start and goes a long way towards us having that type of space. We can have the conversations that give people the motivation and the knowledge that they need to go out and work in the spaces that they want to work in and solve the problems that they want to solve. And so I think that just more of that, spreading the word about the Bean Path and making sure that people know that this is a tech hub, that we do have a tech hub in Jackson and in central Mississippi where innovators can come to, where they can get knowledge, where they can get experience, where they can get mentorship. I think that that's very important. And also making sure that people who want to have the conversations like we're having, have the space to do that, making sure that people know about it, and really spreading the word and uh, even especially that I think that's especially important, like places like the Delta, right, where people may not necessarily know that there is a beam path in Jackson, but getting out in the Delta and letting them know and taking conversations like the ones that we're having here offline and having them in Belzoni and in places, Itabena, Mississippi, actually getting on the ground out there and having these types of conversations in front of them and making that a regular thing, I think is really important. Partnering with schools like Mississippi Delta State and Mississippi Valley, I'm sorry, Mississippi Valley State, and getting out there on their campus and utilizing the facilities that they have to have these kind of conversations and inviting people into Mississippi, right? Inviting founders from all over the country into Mississippi to talk to our residents and to identify talent in our communities that they can mentor and cultivate and give opportunities to.
What would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned personally on this journey in the last year that you've been in this space? And I would really like to root that question in both because I feel like there are possibly two hard lessons you've learned. One as a startup, as a founder of a startup and moving into that space, and then also one that's as a representative in this last year. What would you say are two biggest lessons you've learned personally?
So in the startup space, one of the biggest lessons that I was reminded of is that sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, right? And so with us, we had our MVP out there. We were getting a positive response from our ideal customer, right? And we were making money, but at the same time, it was more beneficial for us in the long term in terms of really growing a big company and scaling a company for us to turn that off, right? For us to take that product off of the market, which meant that we weren't making money during that time, which meant that there were people who no doubt would have continued to come to our platform and continue to use our platform, did not have access to us by our choice, right? So we needed to slow down. We needed to fix some things on the back end before we got back out there in the market and continue to offer our platform, right, and offer a better platform. And so that was hard. That period of not having a product on the market was hard. That period where we were ideating and building was hard, but we knew it was for the ultimate greater good of the company. And so now that we're back on the market, we are back to bringing in customers, having paying customers. We're back to scaling, but we're doing it with a product that can actually reach people all across the nation, as opposed to what we had during our MVP that would have been really, really hard for us to scale the way that we envisioned. And so that was difficult, and sometimes it's hard. As a founder, the uncertainty, that comes along with that, will we ever get back on the market? Will people respond the same way as they did before? Well, another company emerged that's offering a similar service and blow us out of the water. So all of that uncertainty is really hard for a founder, but you have to keep going. If you really are convicted in what you're doing, if you really believe in you and your team's ability to solve this problem, then you have to hold on to that even when it's hard. And so being reminded of that was difficult, but I'm glad that we did it, and we're here now, and we're growing stronger week over week. In the legislative space, I think the hardest lesson for me in the legislative space was that even when something makes a lot of sense, even if it would help a lot of people, even if its benefit is obvious to everyone, it still may not go anywhere for reasons that have nothing to do with me as a lawmaker, nothing to do with me as a person. Just the political climate that we live in sometimes makes it difficult to get things across that finish line, even when they make sense. And so that was something that I think that we all can kind of suspect that about our politics, right? We kind of have a sense that things are like that in our politics, but experiencing it as a lawmaker and having that enthusiasm for getting something done and saying, hey, this is bringing those statistics to the table and saying, this is how somebody this is how many people we can impact, right? Not only in my district, but in your district and across the state. This is how many people can benefit from this. This is why this makes economic sense for Mississippi. This is why this makes social justice sense for Mississippi, but still having a door closed in my face, even with all of that. It was a hard pill to swallow, but luckily I also work in the technology space, and we can help a lot more people, I think, in this space than we can sometimes from the political space. But I'm hopeful that we can continue to marry the two. That as a founder, as a pioneer in the tech space, in a tech space, that I can continue to be a bridge builder and a teacher to some of my colleagues in the lawmaker space, and we can use technology and our influence and our power as lawmakers to make things better for all Mississippians.
Outside of lobbying, what are ways that we can support you in those efforts?
Showing up when we have things like this, not being shy to tell me what's on your mind, what would be helpful to you, and helping me to be a legislator, a better legislator, by helping me to be more aware of things that are going on in your community, right? Because I can't be everywhere at once, but I pride myself on being a representative that is easy to reach, easy to communicate with, and I want to know from people out there what are the things that are impacting them in their communities, what are the things that are impacting their families, and how I can use my position either as a founder and as a person in the tech space, or my position as a representative to help to make their communities better.
Mm, that's good. So we have another question from the Q&A.
Okay,
And
let's go. Q&A.
right, someone says, with privacy slowly becoming a big business in tech, what could be done to push for stricter privacy laws to encourage more tech companies to set up in Mississippi?
No, well, I don't know that stricter privacy laws is going to necessarily encourage more tech companies, but no, we privacy is a huge concern, and I think that when we have companies that we see are not guarding our sensitive information the way that they should, creating causes of action that would allow people who are injured or who are negatively impacted by their negligence in that space to have redress from those companies. I think that that'll encourage them to tighten up, as it relates to people's privacy and making sure that when we give them our sensitive information, that they are keeping it private and not, farming it out or selling it and stuff like that. So I think that that's one way. But as far as making Mississippi more of a tech hub, because I think we're already kind of there. It's right under the surface. Like I said, we have Amazon, we have AWS, and some other companies that I understand are in early discussions with our leaders about possibly bringing their business to Mississippi. But just continuing to make sure that our laws are friendly to tech founders, to tech companies, and to innovation. Right, that we have laws that don't stifle innovation, but are encouraging and fostering an innovative spirit in Mississippi.
All right, very good. This has been a very good conversation. I
It
have
has been a very good conversation.
It has. I have a list of what do you call them? Fire round questions that I have. That's not the word. I can't think of the word. But just some round off questions that I have that have absolutely nothing to do
You
for the
said
most
fire
part
round, so I have an idea.
yeah. But before I get into these questions, I would like to know, is there any final thoughts or words that you would like to leave with it? The rapid fire. Thank you, Tamika. I know
Rapid
you
fire. Okay,
talking,
okay.
but I have not had my mushroom, my lion's mane mushroom.
Do you do rice?
No, I used to do rise, and rise is not good to me. So
Really?
I've done mud water, and I do
Above
lion's
water.
mane peels. Yeah, I do lion mane peels.
Okay.
And actually I have a few other things that I'm about to try for cognitive brain function because my brain is so bombarded with stuff. I've been noticing like a little, the way that the internet was kind of glitching here. That's how my brain has been doing the last month. And I've been on
Look,
vacation.
it's the end of the year. It's the end of the year. It's all good. It's time for a vacation. You got this far.
But that's the thing. Like our company, we slow down November, December to do strategizing and planning. And I guess that's really not technically vacation because we're meeting and we're planning and we're strategizing for the up and coming year for us, which is a funding year. But my brain has been glitching like the internet sometimes. And so but lion's mane has worked really well for me. And mud water at one point was really good for me too as well.
I've
Mhm.
heard of mud water. I haven't tried rice yet either, but I've been meaning to order. We're having this conversation now, and as soon as I get back on my social media, it'll be right there in my face.
It will. It will.
Speaking of privacy, right?
It will. Undoubtedly. It is
But
the most
I've been
it's
meaning to try it. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, I think that I'll try mud water now that you mentioned it. Both of them advertise to me like constantly.
no, nobody's paying me, and I'm gonna slow this conversation down for the purposes of being on the Bean Path platform to be very careful about
Mhm.
endorsing anything. But I will say that the caffeine and rise was kind of a no go for me, and so mud water only has very simple ingredients, and I would add things to make it better. So I would add almond milk and agave and a little bit of cinnamon and other little things that were natural to for the flavor and the taste, and so that works.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
Rapid fire questions. But before the
Let's
rapid fire
go.
questions, I want to know, is there anything that you would like to leave people with? Any final thoughts you want to have for people who are listening in?
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully, I've said something that you can take with you. You can reach me on my social media at Law Blackman. You can reach me through my website, lawblackman.com. If you are a person who's looking for a second chance, if you have something on your record and you're not sure if you're eligible for an expungement, or if you know somebody who may be eligible for expungement, who may be looking for a second chance, needs to get something off their record, please use or share with them our platform that's Legal Ease, like right here on my shirt, legalease.law or expungement.ai. And we will continue to build this company and continue to grow this company and offer services that make legal help more accessible and easier to use and make legal terminology easier to understand for the everyday person. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you have any other questions, need to reach me for any reason related to my work as a legislator or my work as a founder, feel free to reach out to me.
Very
And thank
good.
you all for having me, Bean Path. Thank you all, Bean Path, for having me. I think that the work that you all are doing is awesome. In any way that I can support the Bean Path, I absolutely will. I've been a huge fan, and so that's why I was really glad to have this invite to speak with you all and participate on your platform this morning.
Nice. Very good. All right, here we go. Very quickly. We might run over just a second or two, but answer these as quickly and concise as possible. Okay, you
I got
ready?
you.
All right.
Yes.
What is an app that you cannot live without? Any app.
New York Times.
The
I'm
new
a big New York. Yeah, I'm a big New York Times fan. I subscribe to the New York Times. I read it every morning. I constantly get the notifications about these stories, and I'm always in it, reading and learning something new about the world.
Very good. What is the best book that you ever read that might have altered your perspective in life?
The Alchemist was really good to me. The Alchemist, yeah, and if you're familiar with that book, it's about a young man who goes on a journey to self realization and self actualization and realizing the power that was in him to change the world around him, and so that was really impactful for me.
The Alchemist is very near and dear to me as well. My mother was a teacher in Jackson Public Schools for years, and when she was passing away, it was the book that I was reading to her before she passed. So, The Alchemist has a very special place in my heart. I love that. What would you say is the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice that I ever gotten was to keep going. keep going to see what tomorrow is going to be. Sometimes it's easy to get discouraged in the moment, and sometimes seeing over the obstacles that are in our way can be difficult. It can be discouraging,
Sure.
but keep going. Things get better down the road. New opportunities come. One door closes, but another door opens. One window shuts, but another opens up. And so keep going is the best advice I think I've
Very good. Now, dinner with one person, and you don't no explanation for why. If you could have dinner with one person, any person in the entire world, dead or alive, who would that be?
I've been asked this before, and it kind of always changes depending on where we are and what's going on. I think that uh, given my position as a legislator, um, given where we are in our politics right now, I would like to sit down with Barack Obama and just ask Barack Obama, President Obama. He's not forever president. But I would like to sit down with him and talk with him and just get his advice on how to navigate this political climate that we find ourselves in, how to remain hopeful as a as a person in politics, and how to kind of weather the storm that may be on the horizon.
Absolutely. What would you say is the best decade of music?
So of I'm a fan probably of 70s and 80s music. I like the Isaac Brothers. I was up this morning listening to Marvin Gaye. I like a lot of the 80s music. I was born in the 80s, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
Very cool. I was born in the 80s as well, so I can relate to that. Sugar or salt? Sugar or salt and pepper on your grits?
Oh my God, people put sugar on grits.
That's what I'm saying. See, we're
No,
along. I
I didn't even know that people did that. I went to Piney
knew.
Woods, and so we had people from all over the country, and people from up north would like ask for sugar for their grits, and I was like, so no,
Why?
no,
Why?
I'm salt, pepper, butter, and cheese in my grits, please.
Very good. And final question for you. What brings you joy?
Making a difference brings me joy. Making a difference to as many people as possible brings me joy. Problem solving brings me joy. Setting a goal and reaching that goal brings me joy, and manifesting the dreams and the visions that are in my mind and in my heart brings me joy.
Very good. That is a beautiful way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Representative Lawrence Blackmon. It has been quite a pleasure speaking with you and talking to you about technology and how that intersection with lawmaking and being an attorney, the experience for you has been very pleasant to hear how you've been navigating that space. Thank you for all the work that you're doing in the legislature. Thank you for the work that you're doing for the state of Mississippi to help move that needle and push that ahead. And I'm sure this relationship with the Beam Path will continue on, and we'll see you more and more as we do more of these events and meet in person. I want to say to everyone listening that is joining us, thank you for connecting with us. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend. You can check out our YouTube channel. Beam Path has connected there. You can go to their website to view things as well. The Tech Talks will continue into the year of 2025. I don't know what you're doing for the holidays, but hopefully it's something that is warm. And I want to encourage you, as much as we talk about technology, I would like to personally encourage you to take a moment to disconnect from technology, your devices, your computers, and spend time with human beings, and then pick it right back up when you need it. But make sure that you take good, healthy breaks as you incorporate technology into your space, because too much of anything is not good for you. So I want to encourage you to stay connected to the Beam Path in all the ways. There are a ton of events happening at the Makerspace. There are a ton of programs that you can be a part of. And then also the Bean Barn is moving with their programming as well. Anything that you need, you can find it at the Bean, as they say. And so make sure you stay connected by their social media on Instagram and Facebook, as well as the website, which is beanpath.org. We appreciate you guys. And if there are no other final words from the team, Representative Blackmon, thank you again, once again, for being with us and sharing all of your amazing knowledge and experience.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all for having me, and I look forward to continuing to build and offer support to the Bean Path and supporting you all's mission.
Amazing. Have an amazing holiday, a happy new year, and we will see you in 2025 for the next Tech Talk.
See y'all next time. Thank you.
Bye.